Hi, greetings to all. I am Lam Kok Wei from Politeknik Sultan Azlan Shah, Perak, Malaysia. First of all, I would like to take this opportunity to thank the organizer of Kuala Lumpur International Conference on Social Sciences, Education and Engineering, KLISEE 2020, for giving me this opportunity to present the findings of my survey study. The topic that I'm going to present today is the use of Google Translate in English language learning and how students view it. Let's get started. As for introduction, let's look at what Google Translate is. I believe many of us are quite familiar with this free machine translation platform, which was launched by Google in 2006. So it's been like 14 years plus, right? And according to the Google team, there are 108 languages available now. And according to the previous studies, Google Translate is one of the most popular machine translation applications used by students for language learning. Okay, so our focus today is for language learning, Google Translate for language learning. But we should not forget also the possible issues of using Google Translate for language learning, which are the accuracy and the effectiveness. So let's look at the research questions. There are two research questions in my study. The first one is, to what extent Google Translate is used in students' language learning? Yeah, you want to know how much they use, how frequently they use it, especially in language learning. Yeah, perhaps they use Google Translate for some other purposes, but the study today focuses on the language learning using Google Translate. All right, and the RQ number two, the research question number two, is how the students view the use of Google Translate in helping them learn English language. We want to know how they view Google Translate in helping them learning English language. All right. As for literature review, I would like to share some of the findings of some previous studies, and I'm going to discuss some of the major findings. I've listed a few here. The first one by Jolie and Maimon, 2015. They studied 128 students and 39 instructors in a university Spanish program, and it was reported that almost all the student respondents use Google Translate, especially for writing assignments, translation assignments, and presentations, right? And the students also perceive that Google Translate or all these free online machine translation was more effective, yeah, in terms of accuracy for translating individual words as compared to translating entire paragraph or entire text. However, when they compared with instructors, their respondents who are instructors, the instructors were less confident with the reliability and the accuracy of Google Translate or the free online machine translation. The second study by Bahri and Mahdi in 2016, they carry out a case study among 16 international students in USM who were studying Malay language, Bahasa Melayu. So, and most of the students recognize Google Translate as an effective supplementary tool for learning Bahasa Melayu. All right, moving to the third one, Al-Hai Sony and Al-Hai Sony 2017. They investigated the attitudes of 92 Saudi ESL or EFL, English as Foreign Language University English major students towards the use of Google Translate, and it was revealed that almost all the students use Google Translate for the purposes of learning vocab, writing, and reading. All right, and the fourth one in 2018, they explored the perception of low and high achievement students on using e-dictionaries, especially Google Translate, in mastering vocabulary, focusing on vocabulary. And it was found that both groups, no matter they are having high or low achievement, they have uh, almost similar positive perception towards the use of e-dictionaries, especially Google Translate, in learning vocabulary. Okay, the most recent one, which is number 5, in 2019, they studied the students' perception in using Google Translate as a media of translation in translation class, and discovered that as many as 96% of the respondents use Google Translate frequently. Right, and most of them used it as a fast dictionary, for translating sentence by sentence and enriching their vocabulary. So in a nutshell, all these studies, they show different opinions of different target respondents. So in the present study, I would like to find out how Malaysian students perceive or view the use of Google Translate in the language classroom. As for methodology, first of all, we look at the population and sample. The predetermined population for this study is all the students in a Malaysian polytechnic. And the sample, based on convenient sampling, I had 112 samples, which are polytechnic students who volunteered to be part of the study. And when we look at table 1, most of them are female, from semester 1, from commerce department, and 18 years old. The instrument used for this study is a set of questionnaire adapted from previous studies, and I ran reliability test, and I found the values of the Chromebox Alpha to be good and acceptable for all the 3 sections. Alright, let's look at the results and let's discuss. For the first part, the first section, there are some general questions, 3 general questions, and number 1, if you can see, is so interesting to note that 94.6% of them claim that they use Google Translate for English language learning. Almost all of them, right? And for number 2, 61.6% of them do have Google Translate app in their mobile phones. And number 3, 79.5% of them think that Google Translate is faster than other machine translations, and this is consistent to the findings of Chin and Ang in 2017, showing that Google Translate is one of the most used language learning applications among tertiary level students in Malaysia. Let's look at the next section, frequency of using Google Translate, as shown in table 4. Question 4, how frequently do you use Google Translate for English language learning in general? And we found that 42.9% of them claim that they frequently use Google Translate, and 20.5% of them claim that they always use Google Translate for English language learning. And question 5 and 6, we want to compare whether they use Google Translate for their assessments at the Polytechnic, because there are 2 types of assessments in the Polytechnic when a communicative English class is concerned. We have 2 types. The first type is presentation, for example, role play, oral presentation, and second type is written assessments, written assignments. for example, report writing, essay writing. So when we got the feedback here, the results show that yeah, the students use Google Translate a little bit more for written assignments, but when you compare the mean scores, they are basically the same, 3.65 and 3.59. That means uh, the students frequently and always use Google Translate for both types of assessments. Alright, let's look at the next section, agreement on Google Translate use. And when we look at this one, we have strongly disagree to strongly agree. But before I start to discuss, let's look at how I calculated the total percentage for disagreement and the total percentage of agreement. So I added the percentage of strongly disagree and disagree to get the total percentage for disagree, and I added the percentage of agree and strongly agree to get the total percentage of agree. So this is for easy comparison. Between the respondents who agree and the respondents who disagree. Alright, so for question 7, do you agree that it is easy to use Google Translate? 85.7% of them agreed that it is easy to use. And number 8, yes, 78.6% of them agreed that they are comfortable using Google Translate in English language learning activities. And questions 9 to 12, if you can see, 9 is focusing on reading, 10 writing, 11 listening, and 12 speaking. And if you look at the highest mean score is for question 11, that most of the respondents agree that they know how to use Google Translate to help them listen to words or English or sentences in English. Yeah, the highest. The next will be questions 9 and 12. 80.3% agree that they know how to use Google Translate to help them read materials in English, and 12, they agree that they know how to use Google Translate to help them speak in English. As many as 84% of them agree, right? And the lowest mean score goes to question 10, write in English. However, even though it's the lowest in this section, it's still 78.6% of them agreed that Google Translate can help them write in English. The last part of the questionnaire wants to know their view on the accuracy of Google Translate. And if you look at question 13 to question 17, it starts from entire text. Yeah, how accurate do you think Google Translate can help you translate an entire text? 14, an entire paragraph, zooming down. Yeah, 15 sentences, 16 short phrases, and 17 single words. And if you look at the mean scores basically are increasing from question 13 to 17. That means they think the respondents think that Google Translate is more efficient or more effective to translate single words, much better than phrases, much better than sentences, much better than paragraph, and much better than the entire text. Coming to the conclusion, so it was found that the students are generally positive toward the use of Google Translate in their language learning, and most of them frequently use Google Translate, and they acknowledge the convenience and usefulness of Google Translate in their language learning process. And also, they are aware of the limitation of Google Translate in translating longer sentences, paragraphs, and text. So these are basically the findings and conclusions of my study, but there's a limitation that I use convenience sampling. So hopefully this will be a starting point for a larger scale of survey study in the future. And with that, I thank you very much.